I never was one to believe in the supernatural until I gave birth to my child. My wife Emma and I were so elated when we gave birth to our baby boy Oliver. Everything was perfect until something occurred that altered my life forever. We'd purchased a baby monitor like most new parents just to watch him when he slept. The initial 2 nights were uneventful, and I was thinking new parent jitters were causing me to look at the monitor every few minutes. But on one night all this changed. I was asleep half awake when Emma sat up upright. She gazed at the screen on the monitor in terror. I glanced over her shoulder and then I saw a shadow next to Oliver's crib. It must be something, a trick, an illusion of the eye, I told myself, until the shadow moved. It crept along the crib. My heart sank. I attempted to wave it off as nothing, but Emma's face informed me otherwise. I couldn't explain it, but I knew it too, a very bad feeling. We ran to Oliver's room, but nothing. No one was in the crib. Oliver slept peacefully, but the blanket was on the floor as if someone had pulled it off. Emma and I just looked at each other, both knowing something horribly wrong was happening, but not knowing what. I thought it was our brains playing tricks on us that night. But when it was 2 a.m. and Oliver began to cry, I couldn't dismiss it. I ran to his room, and when I entered I saw it again, blanket pulled off the floor as if someone had hastily pulled it off. It didn't add up because we hadn't heard anything and no one was around. I attempted to convince myself that it was coincidence, but I didn't feel like it. I couldn't shake it out of my head. So I waited up and finished watching the show with Emma last night, my eyes stuck on the television screen. I was convincing myself that I was dreaming all this, but when I glanced at the clock and it was 3 a.m., that's when the atmosphere turned eerie and creepy. On the TV, I was seeing a fuzzy and dark face of a lady bending over Oliver's crib. Her eyes were empty, looking straight through us. My heart was in my throat. I didn't dare turn my head, but I couldn't look away from her. I was already racing to the room before I even knew what I was doing. We arrived, but no one was there. The crib was vacant and Oliver slept. My mind was in a daze. My body was covered in sweat, my heart racing. No way. I thought I dreamed it, but the expression on Emma's face told me that she'd seen it too. The following day I began researching the history of our home. I could no longer turn a blind eye to it. And what I discovered, that gave me chills. This is a house that has a background. Long time ago, there was once a woman who lived in this house with her 1-month-old baby boy son. She lost her child one day. She was so broken-hearted that she killed herself inside the same room where Oliver slept today. The bad news? They say she still wanders around the house today searching for her missing baby. I solemnly swear that I heard something last night. I felt like I was being watched. The baby monitor turned itself on. At first there was just static, but then a voice began to whisper over it, low and ominous. "This baby is mine." I bristled. I had to get out of there. We scooped up Oliver, grabbed him as quickly as possible and made a hasty retreat. But the instant we were outside, I couldn't resist taking one last peek back over my shoulder at the monitor. And there she was, the woman, standing behind Oliver's crib, gazing straight into the monitor at me with her icy eyes blazing into mine. That was the last I ever gazed at that screen and the last I ever stepped into that house. I don't know what we were watching, but this much I know, it was no glitch. So now every time I hear someone say creepy baby monitors or haunted houses, I just can't help but remember that night. You just never know what is hiding in the shadows right where you feel safest. What would you do if you saw something like this? Would you leave or stay?